up with another episode of Why Do? If you ain't paying attention, you about to. We're going to ask questions that you can't.
Patrick Reynolds from Washington, D.C., and I work in fitness. I've been white my whole life. Probably 3 or 4 years old, as soon as you're able to be cognizant of your surroundings.
Round 1.
Why do white men, and this is something I noticed, happen to have a fetish for Asian women?
I don't know if it's so much a fetish as if it is just a natural attraction. I mean, I don't think it's any different necessarily for Asian women as it is black women, white women, Latino women. I mean, all of the spectrum. I think you like who you like in different geographical areas tend to gravitate towards that a little bit more.
Like Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, I moved down to DC about a year ago from the Boston area. DC happens to be a lot more diverse and more ethnic. I moved down here with my fiance at the time, now wife, who is of Asian descent, she's Filipino. But I have noticed that there are a lot more interracial couples down in DC, which is something that's a lot more encouraging. You know, it's a lot more accepting down here, and you don't necessarily get the second looks, or you don't really get a little bit of a off-putting vibe.
And it must be really interesting, you know, being from, with this being a southern city, or considered a southern city, you know, ironically, you would think the opposite. You would think you get more looks for being in an interracial relationship than you would in Boston.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing that I find most interesting about this particular, I guess, setup is the simple fact that Asian women, like, are most, well, not wouldn't say most likely, but happen to date outside their race quite a bit. Least of all, Asian men are the least likely to date outside of their race. When you met your wife, was this something that you sought out? Was she someone that you sought out, or it just happened organically?
It just happened organically. We were at a Christmas party for work. Happened to notice each other across the bar, strike up conversation, and just a lot of commonalities went through.
Gotcha. And HR was nowhere near around this conversation?
No.
Okay, good.
So, I used to, not even being funny, I know I'm wearing a shirt that's Chinese written on it. But I used to live in China.
Okay.
And I lived in southern China. When I first moved to China, you know, people would ask like, oh, you know, why did you come here? Blah, blah, blah. And I would kind of ask other foreigners who I'd meet, and some would volunteer. Yeah, man, I came here, you know, I'm attracted to Asian women. Like, I'm here to meet a Chinese girl. They would specifically just put that on Front Street. And for me, that was really off-putting because, you know, like I don't know, I'm not going to move around the world to meet someone. I'm going to move around the world, what I did. Yeah, I was like, I want to see the other side of the world, see how other people live. And I just kept hearing that theme that was recurring, and then even when I would hear people just maybe not explicitly make that statement, they just describe an Asian woman, they'd be like, oh, well, you know, like the women here are just, you know, more attractive. It's like, cool, you like what you like, I agree. But then I'm wondering if you've ever found yourself surrounded or in those circles where there are those men who kind of, oh, well, you know, they're submissive, they are, you know, something, you know, they talk about their bodies, but not in a way where it's like, oh, I like women who are smaller in stature. They'll just be like, no, they're tight. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and then it's like that kind of language that makes you go,
cringeworthy.
Yeah,
I never liked that. Oh, tight, like tight, like
yeah. I mean, it's definitely weird. The further, I mean, we have family down further in North Carolina. And definitely the further south you go, I feel like you hear a lot more of that, specifically with older white men. I definitely feel like that's a generational thing. I mean, I was a couple weeks ago, we were down for Thanksgiving on the golf course, and you know, there are a couple other older men we're playing golf with that happen to, you know, be married or have long-term relationships with Asian women. And one of the things they hit on, which is, I mean, you find it offensive, is the whole aspect of Asian servitude.
Yep. I knew it was going to happen.
it's definitely something that's a little uncomfortable because we're in 2020, and I mean I definitely don't have that aspect with my wife. I think she'd kick my ass if I ever made reference to that, even just joking in passing. But I definitely think it's a generational aspect, and that's one of the things. So to hear that isn't shocking, because I mean, it's kind of shocking to be on the other side of the world and hear somebody say that.
I don't think they'd say that on the other side of the world.
Oh, when he's saying he was over in China.
Yeah, when I was in China, I specifically hear people say.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was thinking about the guys on the golf course.
Oh,
I don't think they'd say that on the other side of the world.
Yeah, I would hope not, but I think they just kind of they would, because it's just again, I think it's just age and the generational thing where that's where they kind of grew up. And if you're only one or two generations past, I mean, if you're an elderly, this gentleman was an elderly guy, right? Mm-hmm. If you're only one or two generations past the civil rights movement, for example, I mean, call it for what it is. They're growing up with that mentality that they probably have a little bit of white supremacy. They probably have that aspect that they're better than other people, and it's just a subconscious application where they can encroach upon that because, you know, oh, Asian servitude, it's the same thing. Servitude, slavery, it's just a progression, if you will, you know?
That was actually going to be my follow-up question about the stereotype that's applied to Asian women, and just in the fact that the subservience about saying, hey, they'll do anything you want them to without a fuss, or the model minority trope. So I'm glad that you touched on that. It's just off-putting about that whole subservient thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I definitely think it's more generational, because you're going to get that from your stereotypical older white guy. Mm. If you're talking to guys in there, and I'm not sure who you're talking to, what their ages were, but I mean, I'm
varied, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I was like to say, the men who were saying these things were like people who, in my mind, I was like, yeah, well, I can see why you're not with anybody, right? Like,
yeah, that's an unhealthy relationship.
I mean, they were just kind of cringe-worthy humans, just all around. So it was like, yeah, I can see why you thought it was a good idea to fly, you know, literally to the other side of the earth from where you're from
because he was a swipe left back home where he was.
Exactly.
Infinite swipe left.
So with your wife, is this the first woman from of Asian ethnic origins lie somewhere in Asia that you have dated? That, I mean, now you're married, so, but I mean, like when you guys were dating, was that the first time you went smack at a woman of Asian descent?
Of Asian descent, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, I've also dated Latino women, 2 Latino women, 1 Cuban woman.
You know that's the same thing, right?
Yes, getting a little more specific. Where I'm from, originally in Massachusetts, it's primarily Dominican and primarily Puerto Rican. So
when you say Cuban, you choose like white passing Cuban?
I'm sorry?
Like a white passing Cuban?
What do you mean white passing?
Like
I mean, like
a Cuban woman that looks white.
Like she had, like her, like instead of say her origins being like, so you know, Cubans like Europeans and Africans and well, not they killed off indigenous people, but like, you know, you're either of African descent or of European descent, or you are a mestizo. So I'm just saying, like, was she a white like Sophie Vergara? She would be considered like a white passing Hispanic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's why I was asking when you said Cuban, because most of the Cubans we meet in America are of European descent, just because they're the ones Batista. I'm not going down that road. All right, well, you know. So then the final question that I just had is, since you are from Boston, and like my mom went to Boston University, and for her, Boston is one of the most intolerable places on earth. She refuses to even return because of her experiences. Granted, she went to college in the 70s, but my question to you is, how did you develop this open mind growing up in Boston, where, you know, Skip Gates literally got accosted in front of his own house for trying to go inside his own house?
Yeah, he got arrested. Also, Massachusetts doesn't have a happy hour, so that's going to be a no for me.
Yeah, I mean, Winters are like Russia. They're all puritanical laws.
The Puritans were against happy hour? Like, discounts? I don't understand.
No, you ain't got to say nothing else after that. No happy hour, man. Fuck this state. I'm going to Worcester.
There's so many colleges there, though. How do they afford to drink?
It's like Worcester's actually in the same state. It's just.
I'm originally from Worcester.
You're from Worcester?
Yes.
Get out of here.
Swear to God.
Oh goodness.
Over by Burncoat.
Wow.
So you know how to make sauce?
Burncoat and Link. I do not.
Nah, they got. I think Worcester's like what is it? It's an
Is
industrial.
that a pickup line you used to use? Be like, hey girl, I got the sauce. I'm from Worcester.
How you like them apples?
No, I don't know. I think it's how you're brought up and you're raised. I mean, my parents were always wishing to be very accepting and open to everybody.
So not be a Puritan.
Yeah, I mean, on my sports teams growing up, outside of hockey, soccer, baseball when I was younger, you're mixing with kids of all backgrounds, not all ethnicities. So it's not 10 white kids and 2 black kids. It's a pretty diverse mix.
That was my hockey team growing up.
What? All white, 2 black kids?
Yeah.
It's like, who did it? Oh, the colored boy.
And so like you grow up from an early age. You grow up at an early age just accepting everybody and looking at them as they're nobody's different, nobody's better. And I mean, I didn't grow up rich or in like a very upper class. My father's a plumber. My mother works at the hospital. She was working 2 jobs a lot growing up, and you just pass on the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated.
Right. Well, you put that as the golden rule. I believe hardship really has no color sometimes.
No, it absolutely doesn't. But it's a commonality that a lot of people share.
Round 2.
Why do people... No, not even why do. This is a why does. Why does golf exist? Like, what is the purpose of golf and all of its space that it needs to be played and all of its elitism that comes behind it and just all that? Like, when you're old, go bowling. Takes up less space. Why golf?
Because you're outside, you can have a couple beers, cigar doing it. You can be one in nature. It's quiet. It's a place to clear your head, and it requires athletic ability. Bowling, I mean, you can be 80 years old and just push a ball down.
Exactly. That's all old people golf like.
But you can't smoke a cigar or
inside,
and I'm pretty sure the prices
lawn bowling
at a bowling alley might be expensive. But I'm not here to compare prices from a bowling alley to a golf course. I just know that golf is also for getting away from your wife.
Yes.
It's
an escapism.
This is escapism.
It's an active escapism.
All like grass sports are waste of space. However, like golf is never like they don't play it on like turf. It's like always grass. There's all this like water and all these there's a lot of resources that go in to the maintenance of golf. And again, like you said, like, oh, I'll use it to like be outside. So like you just take a walk. Like I don't understand like, and even the athletic ability part. Like I mean, my thing is if Trump can do it, it can't require that much athletic ability.
It's coordination. I mean, I bet you couldn't. You're what, 6'4"?
6'2".
6'2". All right, I'm 5'7". I can drive a golf ball 300 yards.
Okay.
I don't think you'd be able to hit one 120 yards.
Okay.
And you don't think that's any athletic ability or coordination?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, probably.
Yeah, golf is actually quite hard.
So are you here to defend golf too?
No, I'm just keeping it balanced. I'm just being honest with you.
Are you the black sidekick on the couch right now?
Listen, have you ever played golf?
It's my caddy.
No, hell no, no.
Bag of pants!
No, fuck no. I am not a magical Negro giving advice at a certain time. Like, you should use the putter right now.
I mean, you seem to want to defend golf as well.
I'm defending golf. I'm just saying what it is. I'm just keeping it 100.
So are you aware of like any of the environmental impacts that golf courses have and a lot of the sustainability issues that they're trying to tackle?
I mean, no. I saw like one headline and they were like, yeah, golf is stupid. And then I was like, yeah, it is. And I didn't read past it. And then somebody was like, yeah, this was a really, like one of the things I do is I'm a sociology professor. So like one of my students did this whole thing around like how in the social problems class, like how we can make the world a more sustainable, equitable place, blah blah blah. And they were talking about like golf courses and all the things that they aren't doing. I was like, wow, that's great, because when you started out, you just said golf was stupid. I didn't know this was going to take an environmental approach. So now I like knew more about that. But before, if you'd have just said golf is stupid, period, I'd been like, yep, agreed. Like I also the show it on TV. Like, who the fuck wants to watch? Do you watch it on TV?
No, I can't watch it on TV. It's like baseball. It's something that I can't watch. It goes the pace of play is too slow, and I don't find it interesting enough to sit there and watch someone strategize and contemplate a shot. Whereas I might spend 3 minutes lining up a shot and doing everything. I can't watch someone do that on TV. To me, that's just, it's a waste.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
It's mentally challenging and stimulating for myself when I'm doing it.
So it's like a puzzle.
Yeah, essentially. You have a bag of tools that do you wanna play long? Do you wanna lay up? What angle's best? It's like pool on steroids. With a lot more obstacles.
So is golf like a really long, overextended metaphor for finding the clitoris?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, because if you're like constantly trying to like get the ball in the hole, and the hole is like not even visible from which you start. I mean, in some
you're trying to beat everybody to it. Trying to overcome all the other outside obstacles.
In the fewer amounts of strokes possible, but I think the problem here is that you're not thinking about, Kwame, is the fact that in real life you can't change clubs. You just got one club. And if you got a putter...
you can always work when you swing, though.
I mean, that's a long... You're going to be putting your way to the hole. And oh my God.
You know what? I'm going to say yes. I like that.
Oh my God.
You're playing against every other guy out there.
No.
You have all the outside forces acting for or against you.
Exactly, man. Environment matters. Wind speed. You know.
Wind speed matters in finding the clitoris? How?
Depends where you are.
How? No, I want an answer to this one.
It's a metaphor, Marcus.
Yes.
Not literal wind speed.
No. You said it. You put it in there.
What does the wind represent?
What does it represent? What's the
Her
symbol?
friends cock blocking you. That's the wind coming out of, like, that's the force of nature outside that you can't control.
I would argue that it's more of the hazards, the natural hazards, like the sand trap.
No, the sand trap is her
trees.
being like really dried out, and this is not being fun for anyone.
Goodness gracious.
Just a whole mess.
Yes. There are water hazards involved.
Yeah.
Sometimes women generate a lot of water, and you just in that Jones drowning. You didn't even see it coming until she was coming.
So